So, guys, I want to talk about AEW, and they've been overusing like this stipulation of like $100,000 or $500,000 or $250,000 or 4 million pesos. And with AEW, like they have to kind of understand a couple of things about this. That first of all, a lot of the professional wrestling fans kind of know that most of these wrestlers are not gaining this money. It's all like storyline or fake money. And then also too, if hypothetically they were to gain this money, it's just a waste of it's ultimately just a waste, really, because it's almost like saying, why would you just waste so much money on wrestlers or whatever, really, in a match, really, that is airing on television that you may not even like profit from, really. So, I really want to talk about like why these matches are kind of like issues, and then also like how they should work, really. And I think that what I want to say is that one big thing I liked was in TNA wrestling when James Storm and Bobby Roode became a tag team, and then they won a tournament. And part of that tournament was that they won a bunch of money. I think it was either 500,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. But I remember how, if I'm correct, what happened was that they were in that tournament because Bobby Roode loves money. James Storm wanted to buy beer, really, so they kind of became a team off of that. And then that's how their team started, Beer Money Incorporated. Or if I remember correctly, they were also just like they were just trying to win for those reasons, and then this kind of, it didn't really start, but this was almost like their tag team was there for a while, but this was kind of like what really established them. But they also did promos showing Bobby Roode smoking a cigar, counting money, and then James Storm spending his half on beer and whatever, really. So they kind of like had a big follow up, and they kind of said, hey, we should just continue to join forces and whatever, really. So this is how these stipulations should work, really. Like wrestlers should be like, hey, I won this money. This is how I'm spending it. You can do something where a wrestler, like if he did like that match where the Triangle of Madness won money, they can be like something like, say, hey, you know what? We're gonna buy the Blood and Guts cage, and we're gonna like settle everything. We're gonna destroy you. We're gonna annihilate you in this. That's a way you incorporate that, because they're actually doing something with a purchase. Or you can do something where the Young Bucks win, $250,000, and they're like, hey, you know what? We've been disrespected so many times, really, in this company, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this money back to Tony Khan and say we want to have a tag team match, really. And Tony Khan's like, you know what? I got to cut corners somehow, so I'm going to take this money, and then you're going to have a tag team match. Or what you're going to do is you can even do something heelish, and you can say something like, hey, they're going to buy their way into, they can buy their way into like the ladder match or something like that, really. Or they can just like enter the ladder match, they can win, and then they have to pay a fine, and then say, here you go, really, this is how much the fine is. And then you're going to do Bandito versus Brodito versus like the Young Bucks in the future. So it's kind of like what I've said a lot about, like, you have to, you can't just throw away money stipulations and you have no follow-up, really, because it's almost like, why should I care? And then the other thing that I would say is that this is a good opportunity for philanthropy. Like, honestly, you can do something like maybe the Triangle of Madness want to spend money on themselves, but then you can say the winning team wants to donate their money to, Philadelphia charity, or they want to purchase the AEW, purchase the 2300 Arena or something like that. Like, there's always something that they can do with incorporating stuff, like philanthropy. Another thing that I would say is, on top of that, is diminishing return. Like, I remember with TNA wrestling, yeah, they would have a bunch of times where people would win money, but they spread it out. They spread it out. Very, very well, really. Like, you don't do that on a weekly basis or every other week or every 2 or 3 weeks, or just like, well, we did one for the men, now we're going to do one for the women's in the same week, or stuff like that, because then people are going to be like, why should I care about this? Because, it's not like these, it's not really that believable, type of thing, really. And then also with Tony Khan, really, it looks like he's throwing money at a problem, and that's kind of like the issue with AEW, so it's kind of like a meta of that. So I really just kind of think that, that's just how I feel about AEW. That I really think that they're at a point where these money stipulations has a diminishing return. They really don't know how to make a story from that, or they don't know how to say, okay, this is why these people want to win. This is what they're fighting for, and then ultimately an aftermath. Again, the Triangle of Madness by the Blood and Guts, ring. The Young Bucks buy an opportunity to face the tag team champions, or they decide to enter in and then they pay a fine and then they use that to cover a fine, or you do something like you have John Moxley say something like, hey, you know what, I want to buy this stipulation to my match, and the stipulation he buys is that the winner of this match faces Hangman at Wrestle Dream. So between him and Darby, whoever wins that coffin match, then you do Moxley versus Hangman at a pay-per-view for a rematch if you want to go down that direction, even though that's a little repetitive. But or you can have Darby win and then Moxley gets nothing really, or you can have Moxley get screwed over by Eddie Kingston, or get screwed over by another person to feud with for a while, really. So, or you can have Darby Allin win and he says, I'm going to buy the Blood and Guts match. We're going to have Blood and Guts on a weekly show, or at the next pay-per-view. So, like I said, there's just a lot of things that they can incorporate, really. And I really think that's bad that they're just overusing a stipulation. They're having no follow-up because it makes no sense, really. Like, Hologram wins. I believe he won the Fatal 4-Way in Max the 4 million pesos, and you're doing nothing about it. What would happen if, he buys, a supercomputer, and then, he's into computers and he's gaming one day. You see some AEW games, you see the old AEW video game, and maybe you're seeing maybe it's a way to say there's going to be a new video game for AEW, and then he's playing it, and then you see the red hologram, who I'll call Virus, because I think that's a cool name for him, and then you lead into the red hologram. You're like, hey, they're going to have a match at at All Out to follow all the stuff up, really. So that's also another issue with AEW that they underlook, is that the F word. They don't utilize follow ups, because honestly, too, as I said, that it's ultimately they win something. What are they doing with their winnings, really? Because there's a story with that, and like I said about personalities, Hologram is a luchador digital type of wrestler. So I think the idea of him getting a supercomputer and then fighting Virus, which I think is a cool name for the red hologram, not clone or whatever, that would be something. Or the Triangle Madness buying the All Out Blood and Guts ring or something like that, really, Or the Young Bucks getting into a match, causing a problem, keeping the titles, using it as a bribe, and other shit like that. So, or you have a wrestler, or they win their match and they're in the ladder match, and then Jack Perry interferes, and then Jack Perry gets suspended, and then they pay a fine to get Jack Perry to come back, really, and then now they're the Freebirds. Now that's a Freebird stipulation. So, like I said, with all this stuff, there's a lot that they can do to incorporate the money match stipulations and actually make it go somewhere and make it mean something, instead of just, or just using that just to boost ratings and to hype people, but then you're doing nothing that makes them want to be hyped, really, because it's almost now they won this, why we're not following up with the amount of money that they won, these wrestlers.